Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Om Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Sit properly. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Oh, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Om Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Sit properly. Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First of all, I want to thank or congratulate all of you on your excellent sadhana habits. It feels good to start the day in the most recommended way that the acharyas give us, fully concentrating on the holy name. I just want to hear a couple of reflections of how your session went so far today. Obstacles or breakthroughs? Any obstacles or breakthroughs that you had this morning so far? Where's the second mic? Go ahead and share, Malini.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I was just meditating on the point that you made last time, that if you concentrate on the sound vibration of the holy name, then gradually the names, forms, pastimes, qualities will be revealed one by one. And I felt that the obstacles in this material world are real. I just realized that it's real, and then we have to be very vigilant. So the moment the mind was going somewhere else, when I realized it was somewhere else and when I brought it back, I was just apologizing to the holy name, saying, I'm sorry, I'm back now, I'll try to be. But I felt that it went back so many times. So I felt that I have to be more vigilant.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Yes.
I was thinking that sometimes if we have a loving friend and if we are going to spend time with them, we'll be so happy and not get distracted. And I hear in one of the Mother's Day classes, you read the purport where Prabhupada says that Krishna is like million mothers. So how much love this holy name will have on me. So thinking about that helped me to bring back in a loving way, not like, because sometimes I force myself to chant, but like I want to chant. So I was just thinking about that point, and it helped me to come back.
It's really nice, very personal, both of your reflections about how you're relating to Krishna and His holy name very personally. From this side, sharing means caring.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking that chanting alone is so much more difficult, but in the association of so many sincere devotees who are trying to chant so nicely, especially your holy self, it is so inspiring actually to chant more attentively than ever.
It really does show up here about how important sadhu sangha is, isn't it? Because when we're in this circle, and we hear this everywhere we go, that the impetus and the concentration is so much more because we pick up from our environment. So definitely bhakti is a team sport. There was one back here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, sorry, just my realization is a bit off. Yesterday you mentioned that we should use the broom to hit our mind multiple times. I feel like today to do it like a whole day, because I feel like, yeah, as you mentioned that it is all practice, but somehow invariably any practice which we try to practice, the body get used to so much like that you don't know that you become a slave to that. So today morning something really strange happened, that I had kept 3 alarms to wake up, and that is how it never used to be 3, it was always 1 like a couple of years ago, but somehow I thought 1 extra I can put it. Then I had a 3rd one, and now my mind gets so much trained to the 3rd one that today morning somehow that 3rd one I probably woke up and I felt like, oh yeah, I'm almost awake now. So guess what happened? So I just felt I missed being here on time, but just feeling like it to hit my brain throughout the day today, but really feeling horrible. Sorry.
My godbrother Sudama Maharaj used to have 5 alarm clocks, so I think he's got you beat. Anyone else? Yes.
Just towards the end, right before we stopped, I realized how important it was to actually hear yourself chanting, because you can actually hear the holy name. So then I covered my ear and I made sure I was hearing myself, and that way I was actually way more attentive than just doing it out loud.
We were in Govardhan. Havi Prabhu was in our Japa circle, and he has this technique of holding his hand up near his ear so that that sound coming from his mouth bounces into his ear. So, of course, I couldn't do it the whole time, but I tried it for some time, and it does help to adjust the way the sound is going so that you can hear it more carefully. And it reminded me of how Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about how you should experiment with different ways of sitting, different places, so that you can notice, become more conscious that you're chanting and become really aware. Because in any practice, it's easy enough to just do the motion and not be there. And Satyadev Prabhu gave a thought about japa, which has been really helpful, which is when you're chanting, be conscious that you're chanting, because that's the main point. And if you keep remembering that, I have to be conscious, I have to be there for the holy name, and the way that you two were pointing out about very personally, like apologizing that you weren't there, and then remembering that you're going to visit your best friend, or the mother of all mothers, that Krishna is personally there in his holy name. All of these are very profound practices of bhakti in chanting the holy name. So we have a few more minutes at 7:15, and then we're going to have Guru Puja early today, because there's a Kumbh Mela happening later on. So that'll be at 7. Just after greeting the deities, we'll have the Guru Puja. So we still have 15 minutes left, and it's also time to break Ekadashi after 6:58, I believe. 6:56? So, anyway, just FYI. Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Haribo. Hare Krishna. Sometimes when chanting, I may be thinking, where's my bliss? How come I'm not experiencing ecstasy or something? And if you change the mode of your chanting to think of chanting for someone else, in other words, for instance, say if you dedicate a round to a devotee somewhere, please empower this devotee, please help them, and you're chanting to Krishna as service to someone else, then you find that instead of thinking about myself, where's my bliss? Why isn't the holy name making me happy like it should? And thinking of taking service from the Lord, then if you think about serving someone else, then there's a different flow and a different consciousness. And also remembering the verse, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayam Indriye Sevan Mukhihi Jivado Swayameva Spratyada. That the service to Krishna begins with the tongue. So it's always helpful to remember when we're doing our chanting, there's actually our first service, and first and most important service, and we remember that it's seva, as you're serving Krishna by the tongue, and just be patient and sit there and serve. The mind may say, I don't like this, why are we doing this? But our determination can be that it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, mind. This is service for Krishna. I'm doing my service now. So thinking in terms of service, serving others by chanting the holy name for them, and also remembering that it's the service that Krishna appreciates the most, can put us in a different kind of flow and mindset. Any last realizations from today's Japa circle? From somebody who didn't get a chance? Oh, Sundarananda Prabhu. He's always there. If you ever come here 24 hours a day, he's still in that seat.
I was just, my realization was that along the same lines, my mind was not very cooperative initially when I started with the chanting, and I was not very interested, but what Tongandharika Mataji said, I was just thinking about how dear friend Krishna is, and I was thinking about that and reflecting when chanting, then somehow I got more interested in the sense that more involved as the chanting process went through.
Nice. I appreciated those realizations that they gave also. Any last one?
I was thinking about how you said we should be conscious on how we're chanting, and I realized how important that is, because if when I was chanting, sometimes my mind wandered, and I wasn't giving like 100% into my round, and sometimes I would like miss a mantra or like a word, and so then I realized I need to like stay on the round and I need to focus, because then I'm just not going to have a good round in the end.
And keep in mind also, we're bhakti yogis. So don't be afraid to be a yogi. Sometimes you think, well, I'm into spontaneous devotional service because I don't like to follow rules and regulations anyway. So that's not spontaneous devotional service. But if you become a yogi, actually, especially when you're chanting japa, feel free to really follow in the footsteps of the yogis who sit and meditate and fix their mind on one point, fix it on the holy name, and from there, everything else will come. We read that last week about how Prabhupada said, if you sit down tight and wait until you become single-minded, Srimati Tulsi Devi ki jai, then everything will come from that. Gaur Premanande Haribo, Vancha Kalpatarusha.
Japa should Dashna. So afterwards I'll get it. Shall we get it after Dashna?
They're going to open the curtains in a minute, right?
Yes, yes.
Jai Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Shama Sundar Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinatha Radhe. Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji Ki Jai.
Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami. Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaramam Kandat Ako Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham. Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami.
Ujjvala Goravardeham Divasita Niravari Bhava Videham Sri Bhuvana Pavana Kripayalesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Gadgadantara Bhava Vikaram Durjana Tarjana Nada Vishalam Bhavabhaya Bhajana Karana Karunam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanaya Aranam Bharadhara Charu Kapolam Indu Vinindita Nakachaya Ruchiram Jalpita Nijaguna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Vigalita Nayana Kamala Jaladaram Bhushana Navarasa Bhava Vikaram Gati Ati Mantara Nritya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Chanchala Charu Charana Gati Ruchiram Manjira Ranjita Pada Jugam Madhuram Chandra Vinindita Shitala Varanam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Jitakati Dora Kamandalu Dandam Divya Kalevara Mundita Mundam Durjana Kalmasha Kandana Dandam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Bhushana Bhuraja Lakavalitam Kampita Bindara Vara Ruchiram Malaya Javira Chitta Ujjvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Nindita Aruna Kamala Dalanayanam Ajanulam Bita Shri Bhuja Yugalam Kalevara Kaishora Nartaka Vesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Ujvala Varana Gora Varadeham Vilasita Niravari Bhava Videham Tribhuvana Pavana Kripaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev Ki Jai, Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai. Namashreshtam Vanamapi Shachi Putra Matra Sarupam Shri Rupam, start over. Namashreshtam Vanamapi Shachi Putra Matra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasya Grajamurupari Matarim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Hey Guru Gyanadadina Bando Swananda Data Koranaika Sindo Vrindavana Sinahitavata Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brothers Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon us. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which you can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all his desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him Krishna is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadana Mate Jahara Prashade Bhai Bhavato Riyajam Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitete Ko Riya Aikya Anakori ho mane asha Shri Guru Charane Ratiye Sheu Tamagati Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Asha Chakutanu Dilo Je Janme Janme Prabhu Se Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito Prima Bhakti Jaha Hoite Abhijavid Nasha Jate Tere Gai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokana Lokera Jiva Na Lokana Lokera Jiva Na Ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Padachaya. Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Padachaya. Ebejashku Shikti Bhuvana. Ebejashku Shikti Bhuvana. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Srimate Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shundavari Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Take that lamp out of here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Siddhi Shimana Bhai Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Siddhi Shimana Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokopina Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Deep Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. I just wanted to point out yet another reason to be grateful. This is one of the only temples in the movement that offers scented flowers to the deities. It says in the Nectar of Devotion, it's an offense to offer a flower without any scent. So what's worse than that? Offer it to Krishna with no scent, and then take it around to about 50 devotees and say, here, try to smell a flower with no scent. So I'm really grateful that the devotees in the Pujari team have kept this up over so many years, offering the nicest flower that you can get anywhere in California, or maybe anywhere else. It's the gardenia to Krishna. So please feel grateful all day long and express your thanks to the Pujaris. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribo. And now we're going to have a Srimad-Bhagavatam class because it's the best thing to do in the whole world. Dinakatita Dina Dinakatita Dina Dina.
Hare Krishna. Hansapriya Mataji has cooked some small breakfast for those who want to break the Ekadashi fast. It's at the entrance, so please help yourself.
You'll have Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You'll have a choice of entree and Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. We're continuing our reading of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We're now on, this is a Madanga cover. We're reading from the 7th canto. And we're on chapter, at least I can say I'm on chapter 8. The Lord slays the king of the demons. And right now we're on text number 7, where Prahlad Maharaj is just about to speak. And Prahlad Maharaj's father is Hiranyakashipu. He's an iconic figure. He's representative of all those who think that by some material arrangement they can be happy in this world. That's why his name is indicative of this mentality. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed or home, bed, and bath. And there's this idea that if I just get the right kind of towels and a bed with a sleep number, and all the other kinds of surroundings that'll make me happy and family and so forth, that my life will be successful and I'll feel happy. But that's not to be, because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga, one of my favorite verses, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. Samsparshaja means that there's a contact of my senses with their objects in this world. Samsparshaja bhoga, and I'm trying to enjoy them. Dukkha yonaya evate. From that comes dukkha. In fact, metaphorically, Krishna is saying the yoni, or the womb of misery, is this endeavor to contact the material senses. Of the material senses to contact their objects, and thinking that there'll be happiness in that. Then he goes on to say, Adyanta vanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. What does Buddha mean? Somebody who's smart, somebody who's intelligent, knows that because these interactions have a beginning and an end, there's no happiness in them. So he doesn't take part in them. He doesn't say that this is what my life is about. But Hiranyakashipu was all in. And he showed how to be all in. He performed the kind of sacrifice that one needs to do in order to get ahead materially, which is to stand on your toes for thousands of years with your arms stretched out into the sky until fire comes from your head. Or you could drive on the 101 freeway back and forth in traffic for 20 or 30 years, same thing, and try to follow everything that they tell you to do in high school and college and then at work, and then say, yes, sir, no, sir, maybe. Of course, that's necessary in order to survive. But these kinds of austerities, thinking that I'll be happy one day, don't work out. Even sociological studies show that people don't become happier when they get more material facilities. In fact, some of the happiest places in the world are those where there's a social context in which people have friends over for dinner every day. Instead of feeling isolated, they live with a bigger family, and they're able to play with their friends until the sun goes down and so forth. This is real happiness. So Hiranyakashipu thought, however, that he would extract the most happiness, and he wanted from the material world, and he also wanted to have power. So all this is possible if you perform the right kinds of austerities. However, as Prahlad Maharaj will note in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, I don't want any of these things because I already saw that my father did a better job than anyone has ever done in the history of the world, or probably ever will do, in extracting material happiness and getting himself positioned in a place of power, and he lost it within a second. Prahlad said he was so powerful that if he just moved his eyebrows in a certain way, that the demigods would cower and they would do whatever he wanted. He took over basically all the control of the material world. So Prahlad Maharaj, on the other hand, is a simple devotee. And in the verse just previous to this, Hiranyakashipu has become disturbed because he's tried to rein in his son and teach him the materialistic way of life. And Prahlad has persisted in following the path of bhakti and teaching it to his friends, so much so that the teachers, Shanda and Amarka, who are the sons of Shukracharya, who are his guardians at school, become very frustrated because they've been trying their utmost to teach Prahlad the same principles of materialistic life that his father has taken to and that he wants them to, Prahlad to imbibe, but he hasn't taken to it. And not only that, he's resisted his father's chastisement. And he's the only one who's not afraid of his father. This is an interesting point that comes out throughout this pastime, is that when I'm invested in my happiness in the material world, then I'll have fear because I have something to lose. And once I sign off and I say, I am willing to forego all material happiness for the sake of pleasing Krishna instead, I'm selling myself to Krishna, wholesale. I have no more obligation for myself. I'm leaving it up to Krishna. Then there's also no more fear, because I don't have a vested interest. People often lie, or they try to hide assets, and they also feel very uncomfortable in many circumstances, like when there's a change of management, because they're worried, I'm going to lose what I have. So the trick is to give away what you have to Krishna preemptively and say, Krishna, all this is yours anyway. Not only, and just don't stop there. Follow Bali Maharaj. Not just everything that I have or think that I own, but I'm also giving my own self. Atma Nivedana. My Atma doesn't belong to myself. So, Krishna, I'm giving it to you. And you can be sure that if you give it to Krishna, it means your soul and all your possessions, that you'll not be the loser. One day in Vrindavan, there was a woman going around with fruits in the neighborhood, and most of the exchange went on by barter in the town of Vrindavan. There was a lot of exchange. It was a very colorful marketplace there. In fact, many of the gopis would sell flowers and so forth, and there were all kinds of interesting personalities going around exchanging their goods. Nowadays, it's become a little more sanitized. You go into the Safeway, or as Damodar Prabhu used to call it, Slave Way, when he worked there. That's what the employees called it. I work at Slave Way. But anyway, you go in and pick things off the shelf, and it's a very sterile environment, and me, how much do you want to play Crash or Credit, and how are you doing today? Terrible. Oh, that's nice. And but in Vrindavan, there were actual vendors who grew the flowers themselves and the fruits, and they would bring them and they would exchange them, and they go house to house. Even today, in many countries, in India, even in Japan, I see there's some kind of vendors going around in the neighborhood, and they'll call out to the people, if you want something, come. Even sometimes the man brings his cow around. Of course, they can even cheat then, because they put, you got to look in the bucket before he starts milking the cow. In any case, they didn't do like that in Vrindavan in those days. And there was a vendor of fruits that coming around, and Krishna was just a baby. He came running out, and he'd seen his mother do it before, barter, so he grabbed some grains. And when he came out to the fruit vendor, he had these grains in his hand. And you can imagine the scene. This woman is going around bartering door to door, and then she sees Krishna come out, and he's so charming. He has a necklace on, and naked and running out as a little child, and his effulgence and the sincerity that he had, that, let me barter something. So he had a little tiny palm, and then he brought in the grains, and she noticed as he was carrying it out that the grains were falling through his fingers. So at the end, he just had a few grains in his fingers, and he offered that, and she was so enamored of Krishna that she loaded up Krishna with all these fruits, all the best ones she could find. And when she turned around, she saw that the rest of her basket was just transformed into invaluable jewels. So this is the exchange that takes place with Krishna. The exchange with the material world is disappointing often. Prabhupada points out in a talk when he had been exchanging with a woman named Mrs. Sharma, who had served her family her whole life, and then she decided that she saw Prabhupada, she said, that's it, I want to be in devotional service full time. So she went and told their family that I've decided I'm going to be a full-time devotee. And they said, you're going to stay here and serve us. You haven't done enough. And Prabhupada commented that that's what the material world says, and everybody in it, that you never served us enough, keep going. And however, if one serves Krishna even a little bit sincerely, then the reward is unimaginable. Krishna gives back more than one could imagine. So if one decides that I will give whatever I have to Krishna, I'll use it in his service. And by the way, there's sometimes an inordinate fear, this idea of surrender that means, well, I won't have anything. Or we hear, Krishna's the supreme enjoyer. It's like, well, what about me? But actually, the devotee enjoys more than Krishna when he or she develops this unalloyed service attitude. The devotee swims in an ocean of nectar, is overwhelmed, drowned by the mercy that Krishna gives the devotee who decides that I'm going to simply serve Krishna and think of Krishna and make Krishna the object of my attention all 24 hours a day. And then Krishna personally and abundantly reciprocates with such a person. So Atma-nivedana is not only a relief to give up the false idea that I am going to position myself in such a way that I'll be happy in the material world, which takes a lot of work and it never works. It takes a lot of endeavor and it doesn't work out in the end. So I was saying, if you decide you're going to serve Krishna, it doesn't mean you won't have anything. It means also that it doesn't mean that you have to give away everything that you have and be bereft, but it means to use everything in Krishna's service. If you give to Krishna, for instance, whatever foodstuff you have, he gives it back as prasadam. And whatever else that we have that we use for Krishna's service, he gives it back. It's just an adjustment that this is actually for Krishna's service. It's not for me. I'm not trying to enjoy it. And also the devotee feels yadrishya labha santushto. When gain comes of its own accord, then I'm satisfied to take that. And if it doesn't come, the devotee doesn't push so hard for it that it has to be in a certain way, because he or she knows that Krishna is going to make the arrangement. This is the idea of Atma-nivedana. So Prahlad Maharaj's life is indicative of the devotee who gives everything to Krishna. And Prahlad says, why should I try so hard? Because my father arranged everything in his own favor. He got the best attorneys to get that signed contract from Brahma saying that I can't be killed any which way. And then he was killed. And so Krishna knows best. So now there's this conflict between Prahlad, the pure devotee who has surrendered everything to Krishna, is very gentle, and Hiranyakashipu, who has taken it by force and is trying to enjoy the material world. And Hiranyakashipu becomes astounded that this soft little boy, 5 years old, has more power than he does. First of all, that he's fearless against Hiranyakashipu. Everybody else was afraid. And he's wondering from his little son, why aren't you afraid of me? How is it that you can contradict my way of life and I chastise you and you're not afraid in the least? And that really gives him pause to think that, where are you getting your power? So he asks Prahlad, Kimbala, where are you getting this? Where are you getting your power? And this is important to remember, that we get all of our power from Krishna. The power to see, to speak, to walk around, to do anything comes from Krishna. We're helpless without him. And so devotee means recognizing all these powers come from Krishna and engaging them back in Krishna's service. Now here's Prahlad, just after his father, in verse number 6, has called him a rascal. He said, my son, Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I'm angry, all the planets of the three worlds tremble along with their chief rulers, by whose power Kimbala has a rascal like you become so impotent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Prahlad answers, my dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10:41, Yad yad vimudimat sattvam Srimad urjitam eva va tat tadeva vagacha tvam mama tenshom shasambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Can anyone think of a time when Arjuna, who is the mighty warrior and the hero of the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, lost his strength, and why he lost his strength? Yes, Prabhu?
This is the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam where Arjuna is sent to escort the queens, Krishna's queens, after Lord Krishna disappeared, and at that time he gets defeated by a group of...
See if you can find it.
Group of bandits. And then the Acharyas comment that how he lost his strength.
Yeah, it was demonstrative how he lost his strength. And how did he get it back? You don't say. Huh? Yes. So he said, Arjuna realized that he had lost his strength, and then he began to recall the instructions that Krishna gave him on the battlefield before the battle started, which is we know as the Bhagavad Gita. So he remembered that. So how much strength we can derive from taking the Bhagavad Gita and remembering it. And the reason that I become bewildered or I lose strength in this world is because I forget the source of my strength. And how far away is that source of strength? Oh, he's right there. He avails himself to us. And just as Arjuna got his strength back when he began to remember the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings, that's how potent Krishna is. Through his words, through his name, through his form, through his prasadam, all these different ways is how we get our strength. And spiritual strength, as I'm trying to prove, is the only strength that really matters at all. And this is brought out in this pastime that Hiranyakashipu, the most influential, and we see many people influential in society, they have money or they have influence, but it will be vanquished within a moment. And those, as is pointed out in the pastime also, who seem to be getting away with it, won't for long. It's just the way when Hiranyakashipu was fighting Nrsingadev, and Nrsingadev at first caught him and then let him go. And even the demigods who have a vested interest, and therefore they were afraid when they saw this, because they thought, number one, maybe this Nrsingadev, whoever he is, isn't going to win. And number two is we've been already spotted by Hiranyakashipu rooting for the enemy. You see, this happens all the time. When somebody's in a power situation, people are afraid to come forward and say the truth. Because then, like, what will be the repercussions? So they have something to lose, and therefore they're afraid to tell the truth. But Prabhupada points out that just as a cat, when it catches a mouse, it doesn't just devour it. It plays with it for hours, like, and then, catch it, and go ahead, I got you again. And so, in a similar way, Hiranyakashipu was the mouse, and Lord Nrsingadev was the cat, after he's half lion. So he has that propensity. And so Prabhupada says that sometimes materialistic people become very powerful, And other people, innocent people, would think, well, just see, they're materialists. They don't even believe in God. And look how powerful they are. But Mrityu Sarva Harashchaham, Krishna comes as death. He takes away everything. And he's only giving just a little reprieve to these people. And it's an illusion to think that actually they're enjoying something permanently here in the material world. So now, where was I? Before I unceremoniously interrupted myself. Yes, a spark from my splendor. This is confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj. If one sees extraordinary strength or power anywhere, it is derived from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To give an example, there are different grades of fire, but all of them derive heat and light from the sun. Similarly, all living entities, big or small, are dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's only duty is to surrender, for one is a servant and cannot independently attain the position of master. One can attain the position of master only by the mercy of the master, not independently. Unless one understands this philosophy, he is still a mudha. In other words, he is not intelligent. The mudhas, the asses who do not have this intelligence, cannot surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Understanding the subordinate position of the living entity takes millions of births. But when one is actually wise, he surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, it sounds like the motocross out there or something. Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. Or maybe it's like chainsaw juggling. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Prahlad Maharaj was a great soul and Mahatma, and therefore he completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. He was confident that Krishna would give him protection under all circumstances. This confidence that Krishna will give me protection under all circumstances is the very foundation of faith. That if I just take care of my service to Krishna, then all my other duties are done. And this is Shraddha Shabde Bishwas Kahi Sudrida Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. All the duties that I have to do are performed perfectly if I surrender to Krishna. And Krishna says also in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedeshu yagneshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam vadidva yogi param stanu upaiti chadyam. This is very clear. Krishna says that the results that you get from performing Vedic sacrifices, from doing all kinds of tapasya, from giving in charity. And he gives a list of all the ways in which people try to attain some benefit in the material world. All of these are attained perfectly, or rather, he says the opposite way. If you simply surrender to me and perform devotional service, you're not bereft of any of these. It's all included. It's included in, because Krishna is the supreme whole. He's also our best well-wisher. He's so friendly. He stays with us wherever we go. And he's fulfilling all of our desires since his time immemorial. And he especially reciprocates with those who give themselves to him in loving service, especially. Mai te teshu chapyaham. Krishna says, if somebody surrenders unto me in loving service, then I'm in him and he's in me. And there's an intimate relationship. And what could be lacking for anyone who has an intimate relationship with Krishna in loving service? So a person who knows this has actual faith. And this is also the these are two of the limbs of a sharanagati, or surrender to Krishna. And that is, number one, the mentality that Krishna is my maintainer, nobody else. Everything comes from Krishna. In fact, Prahlad says this in his prayers later on in the next chapter, where he says that whatever energies I see in my life that I think are maintaining me, for instance, I'm getting a check from somewhere, right? Yes. And who's it come from? It's signed. It comes in a particular envelope, and when you see it, it's like, wow, that's nice. It came in. And then, it's got a little logo on it, and it's like, these are my maintainers, whoever it is, if it's Bill Gates or whoever the big CEOs are right now, that like they're maintaining me. But actually, they're the ones that are being maintained by Krishna. They're just acting as a conduit, Prahlad Maharaj says. Whatever money you're getting, that's me. There's no difference. It's me coming into your life. And whatever kind of facility you have a roof over your head, that's me too. That's my energy. I've arranged it. Only Krishna can arrange that. And I think oftentimes how flimsy our protection is in the material world. If you have insurance or you have a pension, that could be reversed. Easily done. Somebody happens to be greedy, and they decide to raid the pension fund, and then you'll get a letter. It's like, we didn't know anything about this, but they stole all the money, and there's no more pension for you. Or even the U.S. government can overdraw on all their obligations, and then, sorry, we have no more Social Security. We can't predict these things. What to speak of living in a little house? I lock the door, I think it's safe. But that house can be blown down in 2 seconds. I've seen in Japan, they have their share of natural disasters over there because they live on top of a volcano practically. It's always earthquakes. There's earthquakes every day. Little ones, and then there's some big ones, and then there's tsunamis. And then if you throw in a nuclear reactor during a tsunami, then you've really got a situation. But you watch during these events, and you've seen them all over the world. The houses just float down. They're just washed out to sea and so forth. That's the reality at every second. Shukadeva Goswami tells this to Parikshit Maharaj, who made the right choice. He didn't try to amend his situation. It's like, let me try to get off the hook on this curse. He just said, I accept it. This is Krishna's arrangement. And Shukadeva Goswami is assuring him, yes, you did the right thing. You're just surrendering to Krishna. There's nothing else to do. And he says, Deha patra kalatradeshu atmasaini sasatsapi tesham pramatu nidhanam pashanapina pashyati. He said, all these sources of so-called protection that you think you have in the material world, these are all fallible soldiers. Like the chokidar who's there for 10 years, and they got a big stick, and he opens the gate, and he's like, oh, no problem, we're fine here because the chokidar's here. And then when some actual dacoits break in, where's the chokidar? I don't know, he ran away. And where is he? He went back to his village. And we have no idea where that is. Chokidars don't get paid enough to hang around when the bullets really start to fly. They're like, okay, it's not worth it. And that's the way all of our so-called protections are in this world. The house and the insurance company and all the relatives. Shukadeva Goswami says, you think they're going to protect you? Mm-mm. They're fallible soldiers. And everybody sees it all the time. Pashyanapi na pashyati, but they ignore it. I don't want to see it. I want to try to go on my own here in the material world. Don't do that. Samashrita ye padapalava plavam mahatpanam punya yasho murari bhavam burir vatsa padam param padam yad vipadam natesham. Shukadeva Goswami says that this whole material cosmic creation is at the beck and call of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's under His shelter. He said, therefore, don't try to take shelter anywhere else other than Krishna's lotus feet. And be aware of the fact that you're walking in a world that is fraught with trouble. Padam padam yad vipadam means anything can happen at any second. It's like we're talking this morning, like, oh, well, first time I went to Japan, it seems very safe there because people are a little more civil. And I just come in on the train and I went for the Harinams. I had my computer. It was in the car. I said, is it safe in the car? And the devotee said, 95% safe. And I was thinking, it's that 5% that'll get you every time. And that little pinprick is there everywhere in the material world. Yeah, I'm in a gated community, everything's good, but how safe is it? 95%. You're never going to get to 100 unless you go to Vaikuntha, and that's why it's Vaikuntha. And Vaikuntha can be attained anywhere by taking shelter of Krishna. Those devotees who actually take shelter of Krishna, they no longer live in the material world. Narayana paraksarvena kutaschana bhibyati swarga pavarga narakeshu atmatulyarta darshina. That the devotee considers heaven and hell equal in the material world, tulya, because they're surrendered to Krishna. And therefore they consider, what difference does it make where I am in this world? Whatever arrangement is made externally, it doesn't really matter because I'm not dependent on it. I'm only dependent on Krishna. And my only concern is how to continue my service. And if that's your only concern, then you have no more worries in this world because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the source of all energies. He's already supplying every living entity, including every person in Silicon Valley, with everything that they have right now. It's not only supplying, it is Him. There's no difference between the energy and the energetic. It's His energy. And what to speak of this whole cosmic manifestation? Yad yad vimudhimat sattvam srimad urjitam evava tat tadeva vagachatvam mamatenchom shasambhavam. He's telling Arjuna about all the splendorous manifestations in this material world. Is that a word? Splendorous? And then at the end he said, but this is nothing. This whole world, I'm just maintaining it with just nothing. It's just an expansion. They're taking care of it. That's how powerful He is. So all the great souls say, just surrender to Krishna. Cut to the front of the line. Forget all the extra stuff, trying to maintain yourself and trying to make all kinds of arrangements here in the material world. It just, first of all, doesn't work. And second of all, it's a lot of problem. And third of all, you got to deal with a lot of noxious people in the material world who want to cut in front of you to get nothing. So it's better to be smart and follow in the footsteps of the great souls who just say, no, just surrender to Krishna and don't worry about anything else. And how do you surrender to Krishna? It's easy. You just say, Krishna, I'm signing up for this. I quit the material world. It's bogus. It's a hoax. It's fake. And now I'm going to take shelter of you. And I'll get my information, thank you, from the Srimad-Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. All these other sources of misinformation, disinformation that are coming from people who have a vested interest in the material world, it doesn't count. Your words don't mean anything. Shwavid varahosta karai samstata parashapasu nayat karnapato peto jatu nama gadagraja. This is the beautiful poetry coming from Shaunaka Rishi. What a great sage. His prayers are unbelievable. And he says, men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Praise those men who are similarly situated. They're just like them. And why are they doing it? Because they want something. So if you don't want anything but Krishna and devotional service, then you're the luckiest person around. Not only that, you're the wealthiest person around because you're aligned with the wealthiest person. And it doesn't get any better than that. That's the best thing. And Prahlad Maharaj is showing that, even a 5-year-old boy who just says, Krishna, you're my only shelter. And that's my main objective in life. You are my main objective in life. And not only that, Krishna's sweet. and He's beautiful. So if one decides to surrender to Krishna, then it's a happy day. One can celebrate and dance and feel happy just to have time alone with Krishna, to chant His holy names on Japa, get together with others who are similarly inclined to surrender to Krishna. We have to stick together because by bad association one can forget the great value of devotional service and be distracted by people who think that there's a value somewhere else in the material world. So now before we go to the next verse, we'll take a couple of questions to expand the conversation.
No, Maharaj, I was just commenting on the word splendorous. You said
Yes.
that's a word, so that I didn't find in the dictionary. But there's a word called splendiferous.
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 That sounds a little affected, that word, splendiferous. I don't think I'll use it. That was splendiferous. Get out of here. Okay.
So every time Saturday when you sing that song Ujjwala Varana, I'm like somehow I think of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya.
Yes.
His mental situation when he must have written that, like so much out of so much relief, because he accepted himself as the subordinate, and he has nothing to lose, nothing to fear anymore. And then today's lecture is in the same context. So
That's really nice, because these bhajans are meant to connect us to an emotion, a bhakti, the emotion of loving Krishna. And just see, when you hear that song, you feel some emotion. You're thinking of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and I'll bet you're thinking of his house too in Puri, right? Where he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the pastimes that go along with it. And when I think of that bhajan, one of my godbrothers, I was at his house and he sang it, and I was just carried away by that song, especially because I had that association. I was on my way to Vrindavan, and it was just the circumstance, and every time I sing it, it comes back. So this is one of the great secrets of devotional service, that these windows to the spiritual world, bhajan, to worship Krishna through this singing, and especially the songs that are coming from the great acharyas, you actually get a free ride. You get the free bhava of that person who wrote it, and it just comes into your heart just by singing the song. So we can sing these songs and immediately connect to the spiritual world. So powerful. Other comments, or ask a question? You finding stuff over here? Okay, good. Go ahead, Mukarvin.
Maharaj, in beginning of the class, you gave that example of Mrs. Sarma, where Prabhupada met, and sometime it feels that like family responsibility and Krishna service is like difference, but might be my understanding is wrong, that how can we when Prabhupada is saying that okay, she still want to serve the family, but that means that family serving and Krishna serving is different, or what is the correct understanding when Prabhupada made that statement?
Why don't you, here, I have the first canto right here, don't I? Find me, mark this page that Monisha, I have marked that page so I can come back to it, and find me the verse of Queen Kunti, who's asking the same question, and we'll read the purport, what Prabhupada says, because it's a subtle difference. And Kunti Devi, of course, she's got a whole dynasty of pure devotees, yet at the same time she's saying, please sever my tie of affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. So, why sever tie of affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis? Why would you want to do that, right? Well, listen to this. Kunti Devi says, Atta Vishvesha Vishvatman Vishvamurte. This is 1:841 for those who are keeping score at home. Atta Vishvesha Vishvatman Vishvamurti Svakeshu me Snehapasham imam chindi Dridham Pandushu Vrishnishu. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. A pure devotee of the Lord is ashamed to ask anything in self-interest from the Lord, but the householders are sometimes obliged to ask favors from the Lord being bound by the tie of family affection. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and therefore she prayed to the Lord to cut off the affectionate tie from her own kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. The Pandavas are her own sons, and the Vrishnis are the members of her paternal family. Krishna was equally related to both the families. Both the families required the Lord's help because both were dependent devotees of the Lord. Srimati Kunti Devi wished Sri Krishna to remain with her sons, the Pandavas, but by his doing so, her paternal house would be bereft of all the benefit. All these partialities troubled the mind of Kunti, and therefore she desired to cut off the affectionate tie. A pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. The typical example is the band of 6 Goswamis who followed the path of Lord Chaitanya. All of them belonged to the most enlightened and cultured rich families of the higher caste, but for the benefit of the massive population, they left their comfortable homes and became mendicants. To cut off all family affection means to broaden the field of activities. Without doing this, no one can be qualified as a brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. The personality of Godhead as an ideal king showed this by example. Sri Ramachandra cut off the tie of affection for his beloved wife to manifest the qualities of an ideal king. Such personalities as a brahmana, a devotee, a king, or a public leader must be very broad-minded in discharging their respective duties. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and being weak, she prayed to be free from such bondage of family affection. The Lord is addressed as the Lord of the universe, or the Lord of the universal mind, indicating his all-powerful ability to cut the hard knot of family affection. Therefore, it is sometimes experienced that the Lord, out of his especial affinity towards a weak devotee, breaks the family affection by force of circumstances arranged by his all-powerful energy. By doing so, he causes the devotee to become completely dependent upon him and thus clears the path for his going back to Godhead. The next verse is relevant also. Tvai me nanya vishaya matir madhu pate sakrit ratim utva hatada adda gange vaugam udanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Purport: perfection of pure devotional service is maintained when all attention is diverted toward the transcendental loving service of the Lord. To cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. This is not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. Desire cannot be neglected, but in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord in place of desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc. consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. So this is the prerogative of the devotee. Vidura lived with his family for a long time, but then he saw the message of the Lord when it came through Duryodhana, who insulted him right in his own house. And Vidura left. And he took that as the arrangement of the Lord at that time. And the devotee, although may be situated in various places and various ashrams, is cooperative because we cannot simply neglect, as Prabhupada points out here, the natural affection that we have for others, including family members, but our priority has to be devotional service and serving Krishna. For instance, somebody had gone to a funeral and then reported to me that the family priest had told them that during the time of mourning, at least for 10 days, they had to stop chanting Hare Krishna. Would that be okay? I said, no. Not in any circumstances. We don't care what the family priest says. We don't care what your family says either. I mean, with all due respect and behind closed doors, but the fact is, we go on chanting Hare Krishna. We have our orders already from Krishna what to do. Considering oneself perfectly aligned with Krishna, one may then interact with the world and with one's family in appropriate ways, as one's not meant to artificially withhold affection for one's family and therefore psychologically damage them. However, within the core of everyone's heart, there should be a modicum of detachment, understanding that this is an alignment for me in this lifetime, but my ultimate goal is to surrender to Krishna. And we don't give priority over anything else or anyone else, ultimately, as Queen Kunti is pointing out here, that's the ultimate goal, even if your relatives happen to be the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Does that make sense? Okay. What do you got over here? Tell us what you cooked up. Here's your book. See, Prabhupada writes in the first chapter of the Adi Lila, the devotees are like spiritual scientists. They're always researching and looking into the spiritual theory, and they're discussing amongst themselves. And over here, we'd like to hear what your conclusions are, whatever you've come up with.
This verse isn't in the first canto, but it is in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And it relates to the topic of surrendering to Krishna and how the devotees are, their lives are fully devoted to serving Krishna. And the verse is, Machita matkata prana bodhayantas parasparam katayantas shamam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. Translation: the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So I thought this, how you were talking about just surrendering to Krishna, and there's no loss in doing that. And just like this verse, we can actually get a better understanding by serving Krishna and having the faith that Krishna will take care.
Thank you very much. That's a good citation. I like that a lot. Machita magata prana. So the devotees' feeling is that Krishna is their life. Machita magata prana bodhayanta parasparam. And they're always discussing amongst themselves the pastimes of Krishna. There's no prajalpa. They contain their speech to topics about Krishna or Krishna's service and so forth. Katayantashtamam nityam, always talking about me. Tushati charamanticha, they would derive great satisfaction and bliss. Prabhu. And then over here to Shraddha. You can give her a mic now so she's ready.
Prabhuji, thank you for amazing class. I was just contemplating on the points you told that all the shelters in this metal world are fallible. That you gave a very nice example of a chowkidar who runs away when the danger comes upon himself. So, and I was remembering the verse from Bhagavatam which comes like Balasya neha sharanam pitro narsimha nartasya chagadam uddanvanti majato naho. Like for example, father and mother cannot protect their child, a physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. So Prahlad Maharaj tells this, that only Narasimha Dev is the only shelter of our lives. And secondly, I like the point when you were mentioning that that we might endeavor a lot in this material world, but there is no end goal. But in spiritual life, we might have to endeavor, but there is a great result at the end. Like I remember some person asked Prabhupada that what if you find that Krishna is not there? Like you practice whole life devotion service, but what if you find? So Prabhupada told that we are anyways happy feasting, dancing, and whole life we are enjoying. And even if Krishna is not there, we are happy. We had a very great life. But what if you find that Krishna is there?
Well, this is Pascal's wager. The famous philosopher Pascal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's on the same line. Like Prabhupada was happily cooking pudis when bombs were being dropped, so he was fixed on meditation on Krishna when Calcutta Japanese were dropping the bombs. So, but his consciousness was fixed on Krishna, so he was having.
Yes. Pascal said so. If there is a God, then our dedication to Him throughout this lifetime will be fully rewarded. If there isn't, then we still have a nice lifestyle. But if there is, and you deny Him in this lifetime, then you're the loser. And also, if you live a lifestyle devoid of God, then you don't even have a nice lifestyle anyway. So, just from a logical point of view, this wager is that better if you accept. It's actually illogical anyway to say that you're an atheist, because if you say there is no God, you take a stand in that way, then you're basically saying that you are God, which is illogical because you just said there is no God, because you'd have to be all-knowing to know there isn't a God. And God is all-knowing, and therefore you're making a claim that contradicts itself. Better to be honest and say that you're an agnostic, which means I don't know, because I don't have enough information yet. And yes, balasya neha sharanam pitaro nashringha nartasya chaganamudanmati majatono taptasya tat pratividir yarihanjasheshas tavad bibo tanubitan tarupekshitanam. This famous verse by Prahlad Maharaj that Prabhupada quotes frequently is important because it just points out that parents can't protect their children ultimately, and boat on water can't save a drowning man, and medicine can't save a sick patient, but it doesn't mean that you don't try. And Prabhupada points this out in commenting on this verse, because he said you do your due diligence. Because it's not that we have some religion in Krishna consciousness as a separate religion that when we get sick we don't take medicine. That's not part of our philosophy, nor that we neglect any kind of medicinal treatment that'll help us. Some people are dedicated, so dedicated to only a natural treatment that the allopathic medicine, not that I'm a huge fan, but I'm just saying if there is some research and development, and there's been a lot in that field that can cure you, and then you deny it based on some false idea that I'm a purist, I only touch herbal medicine, I won't go the allopathic route. This is not doing your due diligence to keep yourself alive. We have no such stricture, and Prabhupada didn't either. So Prahlad Maharaj isn't saying don't try to help your kids. And he also doesn't say if you have a boat and you're going by a person who's drowning that you don't throw a rope in. And he's also not saying that if the doctor says take the medicine, you say, nah, it's against my religion. You do try, but you understand that upekshitanam, if the Lord is upeksha, if He doesn't want it to happen at that time, it's not going to happen. And that's why Prabhupada points out that when you take Ayurvedic medicine, you have to say a prayer to Lord Vishnu that if you want this to work, it'll work. It's beyond placebo. It's if you want this to work, it'll work. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Oh, yes, Shraddha, I'm sorry. Right there. See the other side.
I need your help in everything.
You fasted the whole day, so.
So Maharaj, two things. First is that Sri Antariksh Prabhu is looking at a very splendorous dictionary because he found the word splendorous.
Okay.
And the second thing was that those two verses that you quoted from Queen Kunti's prayers, I used to recite the last one every morning, the first thing when getting up, that Toi me ananya vishya, that I should just focus on you. And then after years and years of praying, I realized that I also have to chant the prior verse, because you can always only think about Krishna when you have to sever those ties from your kinsmen. And my observation also is that, and this is how the material world is, that you might think that I'm severing my ties, But the new ties keep, building up. For example, out of nowhere, I've now got a granddaughter. And she's getting sweeter and sweeter every day. And so the mind will tell that, I'm supposed to do grandma duty one day in a week, but the mind will say that, hey, you are in San Francisco, why don't you go and visit her? Things like that. So it's very complicated.
Yes, it can be very complicated. And again, it's not that we become unfeeling or that the grandmother won't show up because I'm too advanced for all that. But the Bhagavatam, in fact the 7th canto, recommends that even if we develop that detachment within our heart, according to the ashram we're situated within, we should externally give all support, psychological, physical, whatever is there. And internally we can maintain that detachment. The two aren't mutually exclusive. And vidyam chayas tadvedo bayam saha avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratum ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death. Sally. Microphone. You did have your hand up, right?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Very bold. I don't remember where this is, but I think somewhere there is a phrase about how, the renunciation is an opulence. It's one of Krishna's opulences, right? He has an opulence of renunciation.
Yes.
And I can't remember, there's some place where it's advised to us that we should not indulge in that opulence. We cannot falsely display that opulence before our time, so to speak. And I thought it was interesting because she doesn't say to cut my ties, as in take me away, separate them, I'm just going to leave and walk off. She says cut my ties of affection, which is the inside first. And if we look at her life, which must be exemplary because she was a great Vaishnavi, she doesn't actually walk away from them until, I think she goes with Gandhari and Dhritarashtra to the forest. Everything's set up. Everything's been done, basically. She's done all the duties that she's had to do for setting them up, and I think even Maharaj Parikshit is already sort of set up to be king at that point. So I was reflecting on this over the weekend because I was with some friends who maybe felt a little bit like their parents had renounced a little bit too soon and had kind of not necessarily set them up, and they were sort of integrating that and how it had taken them a little bit of a while to kind of feel more settled in their relationship with Krishna because of that. And so it seems like it is important to do it from the inside first and let Krishna cut the tie, not to pretend that I've cut the tie when I haven't actually cut the tie yet.
Yeah, that comes up in the Jaiva Dharma. Oh, yes.
Is it the Jaiva Dharma? I've only heard the Jaiva Dharma, I haven't read it.
I see. Well, I was referring to the last thing you said, especially this idea of renunciation has to happen internally and then it'll manifest externally, naturally by Krishna's arrangement. There's a sense of one of the devotees in the Jaiva Dharma, let me take sannyas, and then he gets advice from his teacher that first you work on your inside. Then later, the change of dress is insignificant. Of course, this is one of the main themes of Bhagavad Gita. What I said to Mukaravinda Prabhu is, did that jive with the sense of internal renunciation and not artificially walking away? This is Mukaravinda. Would it be compatible with your friends, that message, or does?
Yeah, I think that they were reflecting on how that's how they want to do it going forward with their children.
Yeah.
Instead of leaving their children with that sense of dissatisfaction.
And there was a sense in the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, maybe even now to some degree, that renunciation is the goal. Whereas actually our goal is bhakti. And renunciation comes from bhakti. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Yashavairagyam Jnanam cha yad? Yes, it naturally comes from bhakti, jnana and vairagya. It's not that our ultimate goal is to renounce the world. Those who are devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're mentioned in Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach this, but what did he come to teach? That one becomes so enamored of Krishna's beauty and his love and one's absorption in devotional service that naturally he's not interested in the material world. And he gave many examples through his disciples. There are many examples through his disciples. For instance, Raghunath Das Goswami comes from a billionaire family. Sanatana and Rupa, previously billionaires. But it didn't seem nice to them anymore after they saw Lord Chaitanya. And that's the kind of renunciation. But also, there was sort of an artificiality in rejecting, even though many people were grihastas, they would reject their family members and try to artificially distance themselves. Whereas there's a kind of higher sense of renunciation, of staying in the mix and making sure everybody's accommodated so they can do their devotional service and you do your duty in that side, while at the same time maintaining your example of devotional service and your internal connection to the process without trying to be really macho and say that, what do I need you guys for? That's the worst thing that you can tell kids or family members who are dependent on you for love. They won't be able to survive like that. Yes, unless I skip someone. Okay, yeah, and then Sukeshwari, 1, 2.
Guru Maharaj, this reminded me of a pastime from the Mahabharata. Sage Dhaumya was speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and he refers to the Ramayana. And he mentions that Mother Sita's father, King Janaka, wanted to leave the kingdom and be a monk. And his wife told him that renunciation should happen in the mind, because otherwise, even if you go and be a monk and live in the forest, you will get attached to your begging pot. So it should happen with it while living in the kingdom itself. And then you should think about renouncing.
Sure. And there may be a juncture in your life when you do make a change in your ashram, but it is best done when Krishna makes it abundantly clear. Prabhupada considered it as he was a vanaprastha. Of course, it became clear from his grihastha life that he should become a vanaprastha when he had more and more service to his spiritual master, even in grihastha life, and his wife was obstinate and not cooperating at all. And there was a moment there where somehow or other, the story has it, she had done away with his Bhagavatam in order to get some money for the household. And she had no idea how attached to the Bhagavatam he was. And that was the sign that came that was very clear that this isn't my proper ashram right now. But even as a vanaprastha, you'll see that he talked to godbrothers and tried various services before he came in touch with Bhakti Pragnan Keshav Maharaj, who was very adamant and told him that your guru is visiting you in dreams and that this is the time you should go. Because other godbrothers who apparently had some kind of a political agenda, when he asked them, they say, first you join our group, because the Gaudiya mouth was fractured at that time. And then, we can talk about the sannyasa. But the point was, Prabhupada was considering it carefully. And when the right time came, that's when he made the decision. There were various influences. In fact, he mentions in one of his talks, when he considered this idea of renunciation and taking sannyasis, and his guru was coming to him in dreams, beckoning him to come, he said, I was horrified. So setting an example that it takes thoughtfulness. One shouldn't do things impulsively. However, it doesn't preclude one from adopting that mood internally at any time and going on with whatever situations one's in until Krishna makes obvious the next step. which he will. Yes, Sukeshwari. And then back to Shraddha.
Coming back to the same verse, Prabhu Tvai Ananya Vishaya, I was just trying to understand it, just personally for myself. So, like, I have a husband, son, parents, brother. So I have to be attached to them in the sense that they are part of Krishna, and then I should show the affection to them because they're also part of Krishna, but nothing to do with my body. So in that sense, I will show affection to every living entity because everybody is a part of Krishna. Is that right?
That's right.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was remembering this. I was remembering the lecture by his...
It's actually a deeper kind of affection anyway, because we really do not have any connection with others. This is, even Hiranyakashipu points this out in the 7th canto when he's solacing his family members after the death of Hiranyaka. It was a big deal to him. I mean, Hiranyakashipu never forgot that Vishnu killed his brother. He was really angry. And that's one of the reasons that he hated his son so much. He said, you sided with the enemy. It's that blood thing. You see that all the time. You know, there's gangs. And it's like, I need respect. You killed my brother, you know. And there's, within the teachings of Hiranyakashipu to his family, he said, this family idea, if you look at it from high enough up, if you go high enough up and you look down and see what is the family, he said they just come together for a few minutes and then they break apart. Do you even know these people? I mean, who are they? There's some samskar there. Even sometimes, you know, a husband and wife will live together for their whole life. And I'm not advocating against husband and wife. It's the most important of relationships in order to become Krishna conscious. But just from an objective point of view, you know, husband may hate the wife may hate the husband. They drive each other crazy, but they can't give it up because there's a samskar there that I'm used to living with this person. And if the other person dies prematurely or before the other one practically will die because the psychological bond is so strong. And it's not necessarily spiritual. It's more just based on the bodily idea that this is my person. So, yes, those kinds of attachments are superficial. And however, if one has this vision, following the footsteps of the great souls, anupashyati means you see according to Shastra and according to what the great souls have taught us, as we hear in the Sri Upanishad, yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanupashyati. Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijigupsate. We don't imitate the Uttama Adhikarians seeing everybody equally, but we do follow in the footsteps of the Shastra and try and understand that all these are parts and parcels of Krishna. And therefore, how much more would you honor them and appreciate them on that level? So the point is that if one is developing detachment, it means that he or she is developing attachment to Krishna and following the footsteps of the great souls and taking the instruction of the Shastra. And in that sense, one is properly aligned. Yes, Shraddha, and then Shraddha.
So Maharaj, I was also thinking about the Tatyanukampam verse 10:14:8, where in the purport towards the end, Krishna talks about somebody has the last vestiges of an enjoying tendency, so he will create situations so that you give that up.
Yes. She's referring to 10:14:8, Tate anukampam susamikshmano. This is a prayer by Lord Brahma after he realizes who Krishna really is. And he says in the verse that whatever the devotee sees whatever kinds of changes come in his or her life as Krishna's arrangement. And a person who adjusts his or her attitude in this way is eligible to inherit the kingdom of God. And in the purport here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it appears that devotees are getting karma, There's certain reactions that appear to be coming in the life of the devotee, but the Shastra says the karma is eradicated, so what's that about? He said it's not actually karma. It's actually Krishna's direct intervention in the life of the devotee, and he's expert in giving tribulations to the devotee that will assist him or her in giving up the last vestiges that devotee might have for attachment to the material world. Shraddha.
So even though all of us are equal part and parcel of Krishna, we feel more connected, or we feel more of a connection with certain people, and we might appear to love some people more than others. Is that something material or spiritual, and why is that?
Well, we live a dual existence because we are souls, but we have a body and mind that is predisposed to certain likes and dislikes because of our previous karma. So we have a disposition coming into this world, and we get conditioned in certain ways. So we like certain people and we dislike others. This is one of the main themes of Prahlad Maharaj's teachings, because Shanda and Marka at their school are teaching Prahlad to be politically minded. Political means that there's a dichotomy between us and them, and that there's this conflict going on. But Prahlad's point is that if somebody is educated in spiritual knowledge, he gives the example of a geologist. So a geologist knows where to dig for gold. He says, oh, it's in here, I can tell. And a person who's trained spiritually also sees the spiritual spark within everybody. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastani Shuni Chaiva Shupakecha Pandita Samadarshina. The sage sees with equal vision a Brahmin, a cow, a dog eater, and an outcast, right? But it doesn't mean that he treats every one of them equally, because there is a practical side to life. One understands that we have this dual existence. Yes, they're spirit souls, and therefore he may even respect them because he sees they're part and parcel of Krishna. Not only that, Krishna's there in their heart. But it doesn't mean that he'll come and pet a tiger, because, he appreciates, of course, Lord Chaitanya might do it. Or Uttama Adhikari might, not see that part of existence, but we're not to imitate that. So there's two aspects to our life, Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out in Jaiva Dharma, Paramartika and Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika is very practical. We interact with the world and in our relationships according to our nature. And at the same time, we have our ultimate duty, which is to become lovers of Krishna, Prema Pumarta Mahan, to awaken love for Krishna. So we have to balance those two while we're in the world. Your specific question was that, what is it that I'm attracted to one person and not attracted to another? Mostly that's my preconditioning by the modes of material nature. Why I like some people and don't like other people. And even that can be rearranged on a material level. I mean, there are seminars you can go to where you walk out after 3 days, at least for a while, and go like, wow, everything's equal. There's this lady, I heard an interview, she was a music critic, and she had had a near-death experience. Actually, she died and came back. And she said it changed her perspective in life. And she said, I used to be a snob. I hated, all inferior types of music, and I only liked the finest classical music. And that was her job, to write criticism of various musicians and so forth. And then she said, after that, I liked even supermarket music. The kind you hear in the background, it's like, why is that song going through my head? That's the Beatles. I don't listen to the Beatles. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's playing. And she said, even that sounded good. Because, we can rearrange our perspective in this world and be jarred temporarily out of our conditioning by the material modes of material nature. But when one becomes Krishna conscious, he or she will see the difference between the soul and the body, and also one's predisposition towards certain likes and dislikes, and notice that that's actually superficial. But it doesn't also mean that such a person then will neglect that and simply discard all kinds of proper social interaction, because there's this paramartika and vyavaharika, two levels that we have to operate on in this world. Example Hridayananda Maharaj gives in this regard is, you go for a job interview and they ask you where you're from, and you say, I'm from Vaikuntha. Because I'm spiritual and so are you. And they're like, get out of here. They don't go for that kind of stuff at Google. And well, maybe they do, I don't know. But there's a practical side, and if somebody doesn't know the language of Krishna consciousness or isn't educated in it, to transgress and try to impose that upon them is actually an offense. You're not supposed to try to give these higher principles to people who can't digest them. You're supposed to start at a level that they can understand. And so you have to interact with people in appropriate ways. And that's a tricky navigation, and it's something a lot of people don't understand, especially nowadays, because there's this misapplied idea of unification in the world nowadays. It's there in our Constitution of America, and rightly so, because the vision is all beings, or whatever it is are created equal. And so that's true from the point of view of yastu sarvani bhutani atmani vanapashyati. But they try to apply it on a bodily level and say that all beings are equal. Well, what about the animals? Are they equal? Are they living beings? Why kill the animals and then support human beings? And amongst human beings, is everyone equal? Nobody's equal. You can't find one person that is equal to another in all different levels of skill, intelligence. You just give an empiric test and see that some people are going to score high on certain tests and some people are going to score low. You can't apply the idea of unity on the material level because it just doesn't work. And that's one of the big movements today, that everybody should be equal. And we have to consider it. The idea is good, but it's misapplied. So there's a more subtle application of this through paramartika and vyavaharika, that you have to work in the world understanding that there are people that my body and mind have to interact in appropriate ways with others in the world. You may see, a sadhu sees a woman equally, but then he doesn't go and start inappropriately hanging out because he understands there's going to be an implication there. So it has to be applied on both levels at the same time, because we live in a dual universe where there's spirit and matter together. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, I promised you, Shraddha, one from Facebook, and then we're going to Parna, and then Srivastava and Malini.
I think you already answered that when you answered Sukheshwari Mataji. Yes. But this is Ankit Vora, he wrote on Facebook. Oh. Yeah. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, my obeisances. In the Sharanagati poem written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he mentioned that he would go out and work to maintain his house, which is a temple and the residence of his dear Lord. And the residents of the house are being his dear servants. So he would happily work to maintain the temple. The question is, how is this consciousness different from the consciousness of those devotees who work but haven't attained the pure devotion yet? Please enlighten the differences here.
Well, the difference is that in the first scenario where he's mentioning how he sees his family members as all servants of Krishna and therefore there's complete harmony, there's an enlightened situation in the house where the devotees are all working for the same goal. When you go to a house where there's this agreement amongst all the family members what the goal is, then you'll find this kind of harmony. And it's not that there aren't differences and there aren't arguments and somebody doesn't like the way you chew or something like that. But, it's like, why do you chew like that? I'm not grouchy. These things may come up superficially, but the overall bent of the household is that they all understand what the goal is, so they work together. And I've seen it in many grahastha ashrams where everybody knows what the goal is and work together. So that's the ideal situation. And even when it's not ideal, which is usually the case, there's a way in which whatever devotee lives there has to find a way to, the best way to make sure that he or she can stay engaged in devotional service. I found frequently when there's resistance, say there's a husband and wife, and then one of them resists the idea of Krishna consciousness. Now, if you try to pressure the other person into it, then they resist even more. And if you take the pressure off and let them live according to their own standard and set an example for yourself, then there's a much higher chance that that person might then appreciate and even come to Krishna consciousness. Just as a side. I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure if it did. What is your opinion? Did it answer the question? Okay, who is next? Okay.
So Maharaj, I was just reflecting on the comparison you made between surrender and cutting the line. So how on the Sundays for the Sunday feast we have a big line.
Yes.
And most of the devotees, everyone wants to cut the line and go to the front. But when it comes to surrender, we don't have so much eagerness. I wish that we have the same eagerness to surrender to Krishna.
So
as we
you're
have
comparing
to
the
cut
eagerness
line.
to cut the line with what we should have for a devotional service. Well, first of all, let me say about cutting the line. Please don't do it. Consider that what we're doing here is an open house. Like, what if you invited somebody to your house, for dinner, and then, you just cut in front of them and like, hey, you can eat later. It's just a matter of perspective of why we're here. If we're here, to be this is my place, and you came here, but you wait. Even if we do it to one person a year, if somebody gets a slight impression that I wasn't really wanted here because people cut the line. And I can always come up with an excuse to cut the line. I hate cutting lines. I travel sometimes with devotees who like to cut lines, and it drives me crazy because I'm not into it. Even in India, I just tolerate because everyone cuts in front of me. And just standing there, and then people just jump in. And I'm like, this is amazing. But it was my personal request, show etiquette of letting other people go first in line. Try as an experiment and see how they feel and how you feel by not cutting the line. What do you think?
Austerity.
It's an austerity? That's a good austerity, I think. Yes.
I have a solution for that. So I think apparently the word got out a few Sundays ago that Ujjwala Rasa was cooking the Sunday feast. So there was a huge line. It was a really huge line. And you remember Ravi Tall Mataji, who used to live close to the old temple? She came that day with her son and some family member as well. So she was sitting, she was the last in the line. And we know when you're last in the line, you have a special expression on your face. So they were pretty, feeling like such a long line. And I said that, if you come to the mantra booth and participate in the mantra meditation, we actually already have the boxes made for you. Prashadam. And, she came and she used that time gainfully because it was taking about 20 minutes to, for the line to move, for her to move. So I'm just
thanks for
advertising
the
the mantra
explanation. But I think that, there may be, it's a, really, we have to, I don't know how we'll be successful in expanding if we don't show deference to the guests who come here, and also that there's a sense that when we're here, that we give honor to others and let them go first, the sense of cutting in line. If there's a real need, I know we're cutting more into a real practical thing here, but if there's a need that you have to go off and do some vital service, then make arrangement ahead of time so that it's not unseemly. Look up the word unseemly.
That's why Maharaj for the mantra boot we kind of did that. So we talk to the cooks beforehand and we make our boxes there so that, because otherwise there's a need to cut because, for them, but not for us, but for them. Yeah.
That's a
but
solution
no need to cut,
to a problem, but the ultimate solution is internal. That we should all be united, especially around the Sunday program, that this is a showcase for what the Krishna consciousness movement looks like. And if it looks like a mad dash, did you find it? Unseemly. I hope that's a word. What? Not appropriate. I want to hear the full definition. Yes, please go ahead. Unfortunately, shouting doesn't count.
Someone shared a really wonderful story about Srila Prabhupada recently during Kartik, which is kind of appropriate, I think. That he was sitting with a bunch of devotees in Krishna Balaram, and they were all talking, and then Krishna Balaram Mandir, and then Guru Das Prabhu came because there was a bus that was going to go to Barshana, and Guru Das Prabhu walked in and he said, "All the devotees get on the bus, line up to get on the bus." And so all the devotees lined up, and Srila Prabhupada got in line with everyone, not at the front of the line, in the same order. He was standing in line, and then Guru Das Prabhu was looking around, and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, not you." And then Srila Prabhupada said very meekly, "But am I not a devotee?" And I just thought that was a really sweet story.
That should be the attitude.
And then one other thing is, I can't remember if it was my mother or there was one of the Matajis who I was with when I was a kid. She always said that the end of the line is actually a really nice place to be because then you have the service of telling people that this is the end of the line. And it is actually, sometimes if you feel like, if you make it a thing that you want to be at the end of the line, it's actually kind of nice to even let people go in front of you at the end of the line. Yeah. Because then you get to keep meeting each new person who comes, says, "Oh, this is the end of the line, you can go in front of me." So it was a thing somebody told me when I was
like
little.
that. That's very nice. And Prabhupada waited in line. There are recounts of that in the early days of the ashram at 26 2nd Avenue. There's only one bathroom. And Prabhupada waited in line. His young students didn't know any better. I mean, they should have. He was elderly and they were young, but he had to wait. And he waited in line patiently for everybody. They didn't learn until later how to show respect to the spiritual master and to, we should have a sense of showing respect according to somebody's seniority and also especially guests who come. There should be a really deep understanding that they're meant to be accommodated. Does that sound okay? I need a verbal yes. It's like the emergency row on the plane when they ask you if you're going to open the door during a crash and you think, take the headphones out and give me a verbal yes. Who was next, by the way? Okay, there was a line and we don't want to cut. Shivatsa needs a mic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking about the previous verse you're talking about dogs, hogs, camels, and asses.
Yes.
And how people like materialists who don't engage in Krishna consciousness are basically like that. Is that the correct understanding?
Yeah, but there's a specific, it's not just to call people dogs for the sake of it. There are very specific characteristics these fine animals have that oftentimes humans forget their ultimate goal of life and they get caught in the patterns that these animals are in.
Yeah, it reminded me of another verse, I think 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, 20th verse, I don't know. Something over there. It was talking about how people who haven't heard about Krishna or who don't talk about Krishna, they have ears of a ears that's like the holes of a snake and the tongue of a frog.
Yes.
And it reminded me a lot of another verse that talked about how it's very unfortunate that people don't talk about the activities of the spiritual world, because it reminded me a lot how important it is to have devotee association, because otherwise it's impossible to really have anyone to talk about Krishna to.
Yes, very important. And just because the Bhagavatam mentions people who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses and never listen to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, we shouldn't condescend towards others. It won't be effective, nor is it necessary, unless it is necessary at some point, with very, very rare cases. But we should not be condescending. We should show through our own humility and by our example how to be Krishna conscious and show compassion to people, because oftentimes people are unacquainted with Krishna consciousness. They have their own culture and so forth, and we have to be accommodating and compassionate in order to allow them an opportunity to come close to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada did that by tolerating, for somebody on Prabhupada's level to come into the association of people who have no idea what the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam is and who have base habits is a huge austerity. The greatest pleasure for a Paramahamsa is to be in the association of other Paramahamsas and hearing the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada sacrificed that to live amongst people who had no idea how to stay clean or how to be civil in so many different ways. Although so many of them had great qualities, but nonetheless, he condescended to that level in a practical way in order to give them association so they could come up. So we should be careful also about judging people, although it's there in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, but we should be careful how we administer that to others. We should err on the side of compassion and try to give people an opportunity to come closer to Krishna by our example. In fact, I think Govinda Maharaj once said that is the disciple of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, that my religion is to find my own faults. That is my religion. He said, I have enough to keep me busy for a lifetime. My religion is finding faults in myself. Don't have time to find faults in others. Okay, so now, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 minutes, so 1 minute each. 30-second question, 30-second answer.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking about the point that you said that if we do not have any vested interest in the happiness or the success of this material world, then we do not have any fear. And that was very encouraging, that all we have to do to become fearless. And the point that Prahlad Maharaj in the purport, Prabhupada was mentioning that Prahlad Maharaj was confident about the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead at all circumstances.
Yes.
So that is.
It's a very powerful point, and it's one for meditation. This is what we should meditate on. This is the process of surrender, meditating on this, how Krishna is maintaining me. And practice it. See what happens. Let Krishna hold you and put yourself in his care. Prabhu.
Well, actually, thanks for a wonderful class, first of all. Actually, this was the verse which Chaitanya Prabhu quoted when he came here to ISV, and then I think it's very relevant to today's class. It's the 10th verse of Mukundmala Sutra. It goes like this: Mahabir Mandam Mano Vichinta Bahuda Yami Chiram Yatana Naivami Pravadanti Papadipva Swami Nanu Sridhara Alasyam Upaniya Bhakti Sulabham Dayasva Narayanam Lokasya Vasna Apno Dankaro Dasasya Kim Nashama. So it says, O foolish mind, stop your fearful fretting about the extensive torments imposed by Yamaraj. How can your enemies, the sinful reactions you have accrued, even touch you? After all, is your master not the supreme law, the husband of goddess Sri? Cast aside all hesitation and concentrate your thoughts on Lord Narayana, whom one very easily attains through devotional service. What can that dispeller of whole world's trouble not do for his own servant?
Well placed. Well done. Thank you very much.
And it also reminded me of the verse which you quote very oftenly, Tasyeva heto prayate takovito, na labbate brahmatam varyata, tat labbate dukkha anyata sukham, kalena sarvatra gambhira namasha. That don't settle for mere something actually, aim for something that is not even available to Lord Brahma. That's what this verse says.
Yes, definitely. Very well. Very well done. Who's next?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Just wanted to say that when you just said right now that when you don't pressurize and leave the person and let him be on his own and then he realize it, I think I'm a personal example for that. Like my Prabhu, he never forced me. It was just like he always waited, even for as part of his initiation was there. I was like, no, I don't want you to do it right now. I want you to wait for it. And he patiently waited for it. And as part of for me also, he never forced me for anything. That no, you have to do this, you come there. It was just like, I saw him, and with that, it really helped me come into the moment in a better way, rather than pushing myself in.
Where's Mayapur?
He's at home.
Okay. So Mayapur. Thank you. Those kinds of personal testimonials are extremely powerful. Of course, we all observe and we see around us those who come forward in Krishna consciousness, and then, we all become lifted by it. And this is exemplary, what Mayapur has done and how you've also stepped up. It's been an encouragement to everybody in the whole community. And that's why we all stick together. That's what Sadhu Sangha is all about. And Sadhu Sangha is in the family as well. We have to create units where we have good association, because it's very likely that without strong association in the home and also on a regular basis amongst the devotees, that it's inevitable that we'll be dissuaded, and it's just because of our constitutional nature. We're really tiny, and everyone can become affected. And also this principle of voluntary service, individual, spontaneous, and voluntary. Prabhupada was in favor of creating an environment through which devotees felt that they would do service that's individual, spontaneous, and voluntary. And he always reminded us that the devotees are volunteers. Remember, they're volunteering their life. Who are these people? They're rare souls, every one of them. He also admonished devotees when they were too harsh in administering a correction. And he said, don't break them. I have brought them here. You're not to break them. Don't break their spirit by giving some kind of correction that they can't handle. We have to be careful. And we find that when there's an encouraging environment, when we take time to encourage devotees and appreciate them and see past the faults, as Krishna does, apichet sudaracharo bhajate mamananyabhak, then people naturally feel encouraged. It works on Sankirtan as well. If you don't force people or try to be too tricky with them, you just be very kind and friendly and open and present, right, Malini? Yes, that it comes out of them naturally, because people have a natural propensity to appreciate Krishna. And if they don't, then you'll find out really soon, and we're meant to then not engage with them and walk away. So we heard a little bit from the Bhagavatam today, some of Prabhupada's purports, and we discussed Prahlad Maharaj, a few points. And now we're going to stop because there's a Kumbh Mela coming up. In about a half hour, everyone has to take prasadam now. And then there's a Gita championship, so-called. I think that's what it's called. Fantastic. Coming up at 10 o'clock. So let's move all that. We've already done the Guru Puja. So we'll put away all the asanas and we'll get ready for prasadam. Thank you very much. Gaur Premanande Haribol, Vancha Kalpadurvascha, Kripa Sindave Vacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. And we thank all the United Citizens of the Transcendental Airwaves who have joined us online from various places around the world. We felt your presence deeply and we thank you for joining. Thank you, that kept me alive. I'm starving.